Joe, what makes Chris Jones so special?
That's a great question, Jeff, and definitely worth talking about, because you know what? Let's put that aside. He's going to be playing. All right.
So you're also not worried.
I'm not worried about it.
Yeah.
The Chiefs are going to find a way to get this done. Just number one, I know Brett Veach is looking at the depth chart going, yikes, we better get him in camp, right? I mean, I'm just being honest. Nothing against the guys that are backing up Chris and where the Chiefs depth chart is right now on the interior, but they got to sign him. Like like they're going to make it happen.
That's not one of the position groups they have. Like Nadi's a good player. Amenahu, I think, can slide in and play some D tackle, but that's not one of the areas that they're particularly deep at. This might be one of the thinner areas on the roster.
Right. I mean, if they had a holdout, I mean, nothing against any of the guys that are starters on the offensive line. Trust me, that interior three that the Chiefs have is as good as any. But, Nick Allegretti can play, and he can back up any position, and you're not going to lose games if Nick Allegretti's filling in for Joe Thuney. Mm-hmm. So, anyway, roundabout way of saying why I think your question's a great one, because let's just put that aside. I think he's going to be starting in the games. My prediction is he will start opening day, and they'll work it out. And so what if he misses camp? Jeff, we talked about this before. For a guy who's been playing this long and is that good, it might only help him staying out of camp.
Yeah.
He might not get a tweak like Kadarius Toney. We're going to talk about that. And just keep him out. Every good veteran knows how to hold out. It's not like he's going to be out of shape. He's one of the best defensive tackles in the game, if not one of the best defensive players in the game. So, put it aside, and let's talk about what makes him so good. His body. I mean, just look at him. He's got everything that you would look for in a new wave, new age, or whatever term you want to use, defensive tackle. He's got the stoutness, the thickness to withstand double teams. He's got the length to pass rush and to get his hands up and block, look to disrupt passing lanes for quarterbacks throwing across the middle. And he's got the stamina. He plays. He's got a motor, I should say, that he knows how to keep going and going and going. And like I said, to use that term, fighting off double teams and getting down blocked and doing all those things. He has everything to be an unbelievable interior defensive lineman. Now, because I think he reminds me a lot of Reggie White in his body type and his length and his shortness of his legs and the length of his arms. And I always thought that Reggie White, as great Hall of Fame, first ballot defensive end, I always thought Reggie White would have actually been better on the interior. He would have been, I think he would have had I don't know how you can have how you can bypass a first ballot Hall of Fame career. The guy did it all. I mean, I don't know if he could have had his, how it's hard to say how you could have a greatest career as Reggie White had, but I think he would have been even better and more dominant on the inside.
And Joe beat me to the punch. I was going to ask you for a comp. Wow. Reggie White, Chris Jones, I thought was the best interior player in football last year. Now, if I had one game to play, would I pick Aaron Donald over him? Yes, but Aaron Donald had a down year. He was hurt last year, and he's older. So that's why I'm kind of saying Jones over Donald. Donald's career obviously has been bad. But to compare Reggie White, wow, that's I love the comp, and also that says because Reggie White might have been the best defensive player period I saw in my days.
That just reminds me so much of him, in the way that he plays. He's, because he's different than your typical defensive tackle that you may have seen 5, 10, 15, 20 plus years ago, right? Where the guys I remember going against at defensive tackle from my own personal experience were the Cortez Kennedys of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Dan Salamua, Russell Maryland,
more guys like run stuff, more like big
run stuffers, man, just bowling balls. We used to call them. Cortez Kennedy was a bowling ball, and I mean that in every compliment of the, in every way a compliment, right? He was a bowling ball. He was a stout. He was a fire hydrant, and that was the typical defensive tackle back then. Jerome Brown is a name that might spark some memories for fans who are listening, but Chris he brings that Reggie White type of body type to John Randall was another guy who had a motor, he had a Porsche motor. I mean, the guy he never stopped and he never broke down. but he was not, he was not a guy that like Chris Jones could, dominate a game from the outside and inside. And I think that's what makes Chris Jones special.